Sometimes it feels like everything is just a rehashing of what came before. We chase new trends, new ideas, new experiences, new strategies, but underneath it all, everything just stays the same. The same struggles, the same joys, the same patterns that shape our day. Every story has its hero. Every heart its longing, every moment its fleeting joy. We may think we're breaking free, but often we just repeat the cycles of those that came before us. But in a way, it's comforting. Even as we seek novelty, we can find meaning in the familiar.
In 2016, Mark Rosewater created the Storm Scale, which are the odds that we'll see mechanics in future sets. And today we're starting at level 1, mechanics that we're going to see again most likely in the next set, also known as Evergreen.
First evergreen mechanic is artifact creatures. They're essentially artifacts and creatures, and most of the time they're colorless. Most versions of artifact creatures are robots or fashioned out of glass or stone or something like that. And there's quite a few creature types that are associated with artifact creatures, like constructs, golems, mirrors, scarecrows, and thopters. And a lot are associated with some sort of actual animal, so their type is their actual animal counterpart. Next is biting, which is another word for a one-sided fight card, essentially where a creature deals damage to another creature, but that other creature does not deal damage back. That would just be a normal fight. Generally, this mechanic is normally printed in green and has been printed on an obscene amount of cards, including quite a few red cards. Next up is flying, which is an evasion ability. It's been in the game since alpha and is still rocking and rolling with modern sets. Flying means when the creature attacks, it can't be blocked unless the blocking creature has flying or reach. Next is indestructible, which are cards that can't be destroyed by destroy effects. These effects are primarily in white, secondarily in black and green, and then sometimes in blue and red. Next evergreen is mill, which is actually kind of a new keyword. It's a keyword that was named after millstone, which is basically putting a card from your library into your graveyard. And so players have been using the word mill for a while, and only recently has Wizards started actually using that keyword on cards. The lore behind mill is the idea that you're like stealing thoughts and knowledge from your opponent, and then when you have no thoughts or knowledge, it's kind of like in Dungeons & Dragons, when you have intelligence 0, you lose to the decking rule. Things like mental attacks, memory loss, insanity, drowning, all mill cards all have that sort of theme, being used primarily in blue and secondarily black. There's also a secondary keyword called grind that's sort of like mill, but you put things in your graveyard until a certain amount of lands are put in the graveyard. This is used as a Dimir mechanic in Gatecrash, but grind was never actually used as an official mechanic. Next is scry, where you look at a certain number of cards on the top of your library and put any number of them in the top or bottom in any order. It mostly appears on instants and sorceries and is also part of one of the old mulligan rules, the Vancouver mulligan. Any color can scry one, but scrying more than one is mostly limited to blue, and red being the least likely to scry more than one. And the last evergreen mechanic is ward, where when a permanent becomes the target of a spell or an ability an opponent controls, it's countered unless you play an additional cost that's noted next to the ward. Before it was keyworded, it was known as Frost Armor, mostly like named after Frost Titan. Gavin Vurry has talked about the ward mechanic and observed several things. Essentially, non-mana ward costs have been pretty fun in general. 1-mana ward costs help generate a little bit of tempo and is pretty decent to print. Ward 2 should really only be used on cards that need protection. Ward 3 should only appear on super expensive cards, and Ward 4 or higher should almost never be put in the card. That being said, cards like Kappa Canyoneer was never meant to be good in Legacy. That was an accident. They've actually said that. So like this video, subscribe, check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description if I ever wake up. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.